game of hockey to me has pretty much been as much a part of my life as family is to me.
Kind of one of those questions you don't really ask yourself, why do I do this?
And we all saw 55 in the rearview mirror a long time ago.
It's just a neat bunch of guys. You're all on the kind of the same page.
The joy of playing and leaving the rest of the world behind for a little while.
After playing 4 years at Yale and all the road trips and all the preparation and all the off-season training, and the same for the year after college in Europe, I was kind of ready to hang it up, and I was really excited to sort of embark on the next phase of life. And at some point I kind of realized that something was missing.
As a kid in elementary school who was given a radio kit, what's on the radio? Well, we're outside of Detroit. It's WJR, it's Gordie Howe playing hockey with the Red Wings.
I think we could all trace it back to the Boston Bruins really brought it in. And I remember playing street hockey. I went out and bought a Franklin stick with a blue blade that had Derek Sanderson's name on it, signature, and I thought he really signed it.
My dad was part owner of the old New Haven Blades, which is the old Eastern Hockey League team, which played here from the late 40s till the early 70s. And because of our involvement in that building, there was some space on the third floor. My mom started a costume business in 1964. At that point, I'm 10 years old. So not only every once in a while was I being brought to hockey games, but now I'm being dropped off from school at the arena, and I'm there on a daily basis. That's when my love for the game exploded.
In the early 70s, a gentleman came to my church named Dean Prentice. He was coaching in New Haven, and he told me about this camp up in Canada called Teen Ranch. So my sophomore, junior high school, I went to Teen Ranch for the summer and became friends with a lot of Canadians up there. Right after my senior year, my very good friend up there, he talked to his junior B coach about me. He says, we've got this American in camp, he's pretty good, would you take a look at him? So he came down and looked at me, and I got invited to play junior B in a little town called Acton, Ontario. And that was kind of the start of things.
So my wife and I are both from Michigan, the lower part of Michigan, but it gets plenty cold, especially back in the 60s when we were kids. It was cold basically from November into the spring. There was snow on the ground. And after school, your choice was, do you want to go sledding? You want to walk out in the woods, or you want to go skating? And when we could, we stuck on our skates and stuck on our skate guards and walked probably half a mile to a mile to the pond.
There was a neighbor of mine who was skating that said, you know, we go out and we skate and we don't have a goalie.
None of us had equipment beyond sticks and a puck, and that was it.
And in the beginning, it would just be me with nothing on, and then I got a baseball glove, and then I got a piece of board, and we drilled some holes in it and tied that to my right hand to use as a blocker. I took some blankets, tied those to my legs, and that was my first set of goalie pads.
That's where we grew up on. That's how you get really good. We used to out there and we used to play kill them out with the puck, but that was another way of playing what we call shinny hockey. Those pond games really developed your game.
Your parents let you get out of the house. You played all day. You didn't eat. You played all day, no water, nothing. And when you heard mom or dad calling for you to come back in the house, that was it.
The pond was really, that was the place. And we had some games there, but everybody played fair. It's a perfect example of like saying on football where the kids sort it out among themselves, right? They don't need adults to tell them what's right, what's wrong, this is it, what's fair is fair.
It was the guys from your neighborhood. We were all elementary school age and just having a good time. This is just what we did together.
And so it would be the adults and the kids playing together, you know, just having fun, you know, killing a Saturday afternoon.
Probably the greatest freedom is playing the sport you love without any real boundaries or boards. You shoot the puck wide or miss a pass and it just goes on for 100, 200 yards. And just that feeling of just sprinting with your buddy to see who's going to get there first to pick it up. There's nothing like that kind of freedom in the world.
What I really like to do is ski. My wife finally decided she really didn't like skiing. So we're looking around. I am actually looking around more, is there some physical activity, some sport, something you get some exercise we can do together? And I spot an advertisement for Learn to Skate at the Yale Ingalls hockey rink. That catches on like I can't believe it.
I grew up on the West Coast, and at the time there weren't any hockey teams, professional hockey teams out on the West Coast, so it was not a terribly popular sport. But when I moved east to go to medical school, one of my roommates, he was a huge hockey fan, and after a while I got hooked.
When I made the team at Amity High School, my dad finally got me a pair of goalie pads from the Blades that were going to be thrown away, that were literally duct taped and sewn and falling apart. I then ended up playing at Quinnipiac when their varsity program first started.
You know, when I came to Yale, it was no guarantee that I was going to play, so I clearly chose the school for its academic caliber and the opportunities it might open up. But as I got here and played more and more and realized that it was going to be a big part of my collegiate experience, as that end became closer and closer, I really started rethinking what I was going to do.
Graduated Quinnipiac, got involved with local hockey. It was the Nighthawks at that point in the mid to late 70s. The team knew I was a goalie. I was in no way a professional goalie, but they just wanted someone to shoot rubber at. So I was a practice goalie with the Nighthawks as well for 2 years.
And believe it or not, so Teen Ranch is a Christian hockey camp. They offered me an opportunity. I lived in Guatemala as a missionary in the middle of the jungle, all through hockey. That all is linked to hockey. Me going up there in hockey and seeing maybe a larger purpose, a more eternal purpose, that's all related to hockey.
Initially decided probably midway through my college years that I was interested in medicine and would like to go to medical school at some point, but as my senior year playing was winding down, I realized I really didn't want to hang up the skates and thought there was more that I could do.
And then I came back to Connecticut and I watched some of what were hockey schools, and I realized how inadequate they were. I don't mean to pick on it, but it was basically people running people through drills, but not correcting. So I got involved with the kids and started coaching. And then I actually ran hockey schools and power skating schools and things like that.
So I got an agent and got a contract in Europe and played for a year in Germany. And that was really a nice way to sort of, I think, work the hockey out of my system a little bit. And I think important for me because I was able to kind of come back after that year and I was ready to sort of immerse myself in the medical studies. And I think without doing that, I kind of always would have wondered.
There were times that I got involved with coaching. I didn't want to be coaching my kids. I knew about goaltending, so I wanted to focus on the goalies.
I like to say I'm a hockey teacher, not a hockey coach. I like teaching the finer parts of the game because that's how I learned at a hockey school. It was about individual skill development, not about team concepts per se.
Sometime in the 90s, my boss said, listen, advancement's tough. It's not easy to move up as a faculty member. You got to do everything you can to improve your odds. The dean plays hockey. You should get out Sunday night and play hockey so the dean knows who you are. Unfortunately, it was the wrong dean. It was not the dean of the medical school, it was the dean of student admissions. Now, I learned through that while Dr. Bob Gifford was our dean of students, if you were really good playing hockey, it improved your chances of getting into the medical school, and we had some really good players on the field.
I went to medical school in Philadelphia, didn't bring my hockey bag with me, and really for about a year and a half hadn't thought about it. But a friend of mine had recommended that I try playing with a group of guys. I realized through the act of playing again what I was really missing, and never looked back. I started playing probably in the midday league maybe 20 years ago now, just before my daughter was born.
The love of competition, I just, guys like that, the idea of challenging yourself, we're going in a little over ahead here, I'm going to play in this men's league, and we have a chance at this, we're going to put everything on the ice and leave nothing for the locker room. I would almost liken it to people who do thrill rides on roller coasters, right? This getting in the locker room, mentally getting prepared, going out there for this silly game.
You come to love the competitive nature, and it's not that you forget that feeling of stepping on the ice and just gliding or the mastery of the skills, but it's about the competition and seeking to reach the highest level you can and challenge yourself and your team.
And then there's the other half, like the pickup hockey, like on Sunday nights for me, There's just some great people out there.
Me, I just started to meet people I wasn't running into otherwise. Kidney specialists I wouldn't normally meet, med students I wouldn't normally meet. It was just a place to get going, get some exercise, have a good time.
I think when I first started, I just wanted to get to the point where I wasn't so totally awkward, which with time came, and I felt like then I could keep up at least with the older guys.
And I think it's been pretty easy to sort of forget the competition and let it get back to sort of the beauty of the game and the mastery of the skills and the chemistry, the fluidity of the game, the chess moves of the game, and allow that to sort of be about what motivates you rather than about the wins or losses.
You learn to play with players that are at your level, not trying to play with the hot shots anymore.
It's funny, at every age, it seems like it's blistering fast, right? As you get older, if you saw a film of yourself, like, are we really that slow? And certainly girlfriends and wives in the audience always say that. It's also almost commensurate, right? So if you're doing a wraparound as an old guy in a beer league, the goaltender's moving essentially as slow as you are, so it actually all works out perfectly.
I definitely hit that point where there's things that my mind remembers being able to do, or reactions that I used to be able to do at a speed and a pace that I think I should be able to do. And when the brain sends the signal to the legs or the arms, they just don't do it like they did before.
The old mind is willing, but the body's weak. I tried to cut back a couple months ago, and I just crumbled to a big hot mess. I was like, I knew what I wanted to do, but it just the legs or something didn't happen, and just total explosion along the board.
You got to find ways to sort of work around that, and I think that's when you get a little craftier and a little cagier and play a little bit of a different game.
I like to think that I'm smarter than I was 40 years ago or 20 years ago.
You worry less about, how good was that shot or what kind of stick handling can you still do. It's just about getting out there and doing something you love and knowing that you're staying fit doing it.
The point is you got to stay with your age group, right? So if you're with your age group, it's all good. The hard part is when I used to play with my kids, and I'd be out there and I got neckties older than half the kids out there, and you're trying to keep up, It's tough at 50-something to keep up with 25-year-olds.
It's all part of the evolution of the player throughout a lifetime in relationship to the game, is sort of learning how to love it in different ways as it suits your skill set, and being surrounded most importantly by people that are oftentimes lifelong friends who've been doing the same thing.
All those friends I have, I can link back to hockey. Even guys now that you see all the time.
I'm a local kid, so I grew up in this area, and I see all the kids that I literally grew up playing squirt, peewee, bantam, high school hockey with. Some of my fiercest competitors are now guys that I play with in the beer league.
I think Wayne Gretzky said it best. He didn't enjoy the practices, but he sure missed a lot.
Some nights, more than once, the only ones of us sticking around for beer afterwards are the old folk.
Talking about the game we just had and talking about the old games from the old days.
This is like the guys at the coffee shop for them. These are their friends. This is what they do together.
It's really neat to see, to remember what they look like as a kid and kind of respect the competitor that they were, and then see a little bit of that on the ice in the men's league, but see mostly it be about two kids who grew up in the area who are now 49 or 50 and just loving the game and playing it for the fun of it.
Who share this same passion for the game that you do, and that gives you an immediate bond.
Because of that bond, I believe you develop, not only as hockey players, but as people, you develop that love for the game, and even the love for the person you're playing with.
I've had opportunities at various stages after periods of training to go and find a job somewhere else, and I've always stayed in part because of the community here at Yale, but in part the community here at Ingles. I would say life gets in the way of hockey in a funny way, or more importantly, maybe my kids' lives. For a long time, I'd have to decide if I really wanted to come here middle of the day and skate and then come right back in 4 or 5 hours and coach maybe 2 teams as my 2 kids were playing.
For me, it was a work got in the way of hockey. I was always trying to figure out how I could get an hour during the middle of the day to go down and play noontime. Some days I wanted to skate and I had my young infant daughter, so I'd actually bring her in the car seat, sit her in the stands behind the bench, make sure she had a snack and a book to look at, and I'd try to play through a full hour and half session without her getting too upset, and it worked out. And then I did the same thing with my son. When they were growing up, I was really excited that I wanted to share the game with them, get them on the ice and learn to play.
The one thing about hockey from a family standpoint is there has to be a commitment. If a child wants to play hockey, you got to get up usually very early in the morning. Hockey, by nature, is a traveling sport, and that also meant spending time in the car with family.
So you've got a captive audience at 70 miles an hour in your car at 8, 9, 10 years old. That's a great time to bond with your kids. And then when they become teenagers, they don't want to talk to you because they know so much more than you, right? Even when you're butting heads, you can always talk hockey, right? So if I was not seeing eye to eye with one of my sons, we go say, "Oh, did you watch the Rangers last night? Did you see what the Bruins did?" Or, so on and so forth. It breaks the ice because you have that common bond of having spent all those years together playing hockey.
I always wondered if my enthusiasm would be a negative for them. I felt I had to back off a little because I didn't want myself vicariously transitioning into my children. I wanted them to feel the same feelings I had at 8 years old and at 15 years old and at 25 years old.
Not only is it just passing out, but you actually get to skate with them and enjoy that part of it. Well, they never pass a puck to me, so it's not all that cool. I always look at them, I'm the easy pass here, you seem to think that, But other than that, it's kind of nostalgic. You kind of look out there, when you see them do certain things, you say, I remember teaching that.
There's nothing like that, to be able to play with your kids, to be able to do something you love and watch them get to a high enough level that they can kind of do it and you're really doing it as equals is really, really kind of fun.
And I have grandchildren, so I'm looking forward to that. So we'll see what happens there.
We have a pond in our neighborhood that's pretty reliable, and a lot of us play there. And so this past winter was cold enough, we had good ice. And I remember we were out playing New Year's Day, and like usual, I ran out there, didn't warm up, didn't stretch. I had pain in my groin. I thought it pulled my groin muscle, which I've done. So I stopped playing for about a month to try to let that heal. And unlike before, it just wasn't getting better. So eventually I went to the doctor. I was now worried that maybe I had a problem with my hip. And the x-ray showed areas of my pelvis that were kind of moth-eaten, which is suspicious for cancer. And then they sent a PSA level, and that confirmed the diagnosis. So now I have all this time to play hockey, but I can't play hockey. Whereas all the other years I was dying for the time to play more and couldn't find it.
One of the unexpected things about playing Sunday night hockey and hanging around with the other players is some sense of these issues. From my side, it was a reminder that nothing's given. You're not guaranteed you'll be able to do this till age X, but you do have to pay attention to realities. If at some point you got an injury, you got to give yourself some time to recover. If you've got a condition that you can't be out on the ice, you can't be out on the ice.
It's still some numbness.
So how long can you keep playing? I don't know the answer to that. There's a higher power that has that under control, but I intend to make the most of it.
As long as I physically can play, I'm gonna play.
I don't think any of us look at it as, well, I got another year and then I better stop this. No, the question, how far can you keep going, but be realistic about it.
I think if and when the day comes, either I'm too injured to lace up my skates or I find myself being embarrassed out there, that might be the day I take that long look in the mirror.
It's a cliche, but live each day as it comes. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I had to first learn the game and play the game on a regular basis with a group of guys who were skilled.
I mean, I was weaned on hockey as a little kid with the Blades. I started playing at 8, 9 years old and never stopped.
And I've been doing this since I was 5 or 6, and for many years, probably at least 8 to 9, it was something I did every day in some manner for up to 3 to 4 hours. And to have that kind of daily level of exertion, camaraderie, friendship, creativity, all the things that outlet provides. To not have that, it's really hard to have that woven in your fabric and to not have it be part of an everyday part of your life.
And clearly there's something there because, like you say, we make sure we clear life's things out of the way so we can do hockey. It just kind of gets in your blood.
That's probably speaks to the magic of hockey almost more than anything else.